Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webcast, Working with Point Clouds in Autodesk 2016. Our speaker today is ASCENT author Michelle Rasmussen. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kareem. So welcome everyone. I'm really excited. This has been a fun book to work on. This is part of the AutoCAD 2016 update for AutoCAD 2014 and 2015 users. I'm pulling the content right out of Chapter 3, which is a 3D modeling chapter. In this chapter, you learn about the enhancements to 3D and all the new features or new capabilities of 3D inside of the AutoCAD software. You learn how to automate creating 2D documentation of existing 3D models, attaching and managing point cloud data, and how to render a model. Today, however, we're just going to focus on attaching and managing point clouds. So point clouds, as many of you know, AutoCAD has been able to work with point clouds for some time. And the new format that is used for point clouds is actually an RCP or an RCS file type. And that's because Autodesk has included recap into AutoCAD so that you can take those point clouds and process them in recap, and then when you bring them into AutoCAD, it's a much smoother, much more efficient process, so it works a lot faster than it previously did, which is really nice. It speeds up the process there. Oops, my slides are not changing. Here we go. There we go. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is actually how to attach a point cloud. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is go into the Insert tab and choose Attach, and then choose either the RCP or RCS file type that you see at the bottom. If you do have the RCS file type, you'll probably have to go ahead and click on the Files of Type arrow to select it. But once you do, it will show up above. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the software so you can actually see that. You can see I actually have a point cloud already in my drawing. For those of you that don't know what point clouds are, they're basically scans of an area. Now, the scans can be inside of a building like this one is, or it can be outside of a building. And so depending on what you want to design around, you would go and have someone do a 3D scan of the area, and then, like I said, you'll process them inside of recap. And you can see on the Insert tab on the Point Cloud panel, we have the Autodesk Recap. So that will actually launch Recap. You can bring in scans into there and then have it bring it into AutoCAD. If you've already done that, if you've already created your RCP files or RCS files, you'll click on the Attach. Now let me create a new file here. And I want to go to the Model tab. And again, I'm on the Insert tab, Point Cloud panel. I'll simply click Attach, and I can choose whichever type of file I have, and then select that file and click Open. First thing you'll notice, it's just like inserting any other file type, whether you're inserting drawings or extras or whatever. You'll select whether you want it to be a relative path, a full path, or not have a path. You'll specify the scale, an insertion point, and the rotation. If I wanted to specify it on the screen so I could actually click something in the model to insert that, you can click the option to specify on screen. And then a really important thing is always look at the details of your point cloud. And this will become a lot more in handy a little bit later on when we start talking about some of the capabilities that have been included with point clouds. But a key thing that you want to look for is this segmentation data. You want to make sure that that says yes right there. And like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So my point cloud is ready to go. I'm going to click OK. And now my point cloud has been inserted. So it's really easy to insert that. And then I like to use my view cube to take a look at that point cloud from different angles. And of course, I can use my mouse to look at it. If I hold my Shift key down and hold my middle mouse button down, I can kind of orbit around, take a closer look at everything. So let me go back to my slides here. There we go. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is the point visualization. Now, in years past, we've had the option to change colors, but something new to the 2016 product is the option to actually change the transparency. You can do this in a couple of different ways. You can do it here on the Visualization tab of the point cloud, or Visualization panel of the point cloud tab. You can change the transparency there. Or if you have the properties open for that, you can set the transparency right there in the properties palette. So let's take a look at that really quick. There we go. The nice thing, the reason that's really nice to be able to change that transparency is if I'm drawing a line in here, you can see that that line kind of gets lost. I mean, I can't see where it is over here. So if I select the point cloud itself, you'll see when I left click on any of those points, it gets a box around that point cloud. That lets me know that it has been selected. Then in the point cloud tab or ribbon, I'll go to the visualization panel and change the transparency. And as I lighten that up or fade it out, that line in there, it becomes much more visible. So it makes it easier to see what you're actually drawing. Okay. The other thing that I can do is I can change the color of this. So if I go into my scan colors drop down, you can change it to object colors. You can set the normal stylization, set the intensity, do it by elevation. So it makes it very, very easy to see, you know, where different elevations fall. So you can see how tall everything is. If I went to classification, now this point file doesn't have any classification, but if I did that, I could classify things as I'm scanning into walls and ground shots and so on, and that would allow me to see things a little bit clearer. In fact, if I go over here to drawing 2, I have a point cloud in my file, and this happens to be a point cloud of a city landscape. And so if I take a look at this, it's hard to tell what things are. So if I select that point cloud on the visualization panel, expand the colors, and change it to classification, you can see now my ground shots are that green color and my buildings are the yellow color. So it makes it much easier to visualize what's really happening, since that's just a bunch of small little points all over the place. There we go. All right, so the next thing is cropping. Now, in years past, we have had the ability to do cropping within point clouds so that we can look at just what we want to look at. But something that's new is now we have the capability to actually save a cropped state, and that helps so much so that I can turn things on and off within the point cloud to really focus on the item that I need. So, you know, for in the instance here in my slides, here's my entire point cloud, and then here's one building that's been isolated. So then I can go in and draw my line work for that building and not have to worry about, you know, well, where's the edge of that building? Where does it end? It's just much easier to see that. So let me show you how that works. All right, so I'm going to just keep using the same example here. I'm going to go back to a top view. And let's say I want to isolate one of these buildings over here. All I need to do is select my point cloud so that my ribbon appears for my point clouds. Then on the cropping panel, I'll create a cropped area just like I did before. I can do it as a rectangle, a polygon, or a circular. So I'll go ahead and do circular this time and specify my center point. And then I'll specify the radius that I want for that. Let me bring it in slightly. That looks pretty good. And it's going to ask me if I want it for the inside or the outside. The nice thing is if I have dynamic input on, I can just select it from my mouse, or I can select it in the command line, whichever one I prefer. So now that I've set that, let me go back to a Southwest isometric view. Here's the building that I've isolated, and that's great. I can see it's, you know, it's not exactly easy to see where everything is because this is not a very dense point cloud. But I can go ahead and uncrop all of that. And if I need to go back to a state, of course I would want to save a state. So let me just undo here. There we go. And if I want to save that point cloud state or cropping state, I'll select the point cloud state and expand the cropping panel this time. And then I'll click New Crop State. And I'll go ahead and name this. Maybe this is our retail building. I'll just save that. And then I'll do an uncrop all. When I expand cropping this time, I'm going to look at my different saved states. I have a tall building saved state. And the nice thing is it doesn't change the view at all. So you notice to be able to see that, I actually had to zoom out a little bit and pan down. But it does change what points within that point cloud are visible at any moment. So it's easy to go back and forth between buildings or bring the entire landscape back. There we go. All right, so that's our new capabilities of cropping. The other thing that I love about 2016 and what we've written into the book here is sections. We can now take sections of point clouds, and we can do in a couple different ways. We can do section planes or orthogonal views like the front, the back, the top, the bottom, left or right, or we can actually pick 2 points in the model so that we can set that at any angle that we want it to be. The nice thing about that is once we have some sections in there, we can actually extract section lines from those point clouds. So it's much more automated to create that line work rather than going in and trying to play connect the dots like we used to do with the node OSnap-on. A couple other new commands that are great is you can actually extract edges, corners, and center lines. Center lines will only be for those cylindrical objects where the point clouds kind of end up in a cylindrical pattern of some sort. It'll actually find the center of that cylindrical feature if the point cloud is dense enough. When you're extracting section lines from your point cloud, you can decide whether you want just the perimeter or an entire cross-section. And you can set the layer that geometry goes on, as well as the color. You can also decide if you want it to be regular lines where each line is separate, or if you want 2D polylines. And you can also determine, what is the minimum length of any of the lines, and how closely together do your lines need to be before they connect into one line, and as well as, how closely points need to be within an angle to be collinear. Okay. When you're extracting them, it can take a few seconds, and it can take a lot of minutes. It just depends on how dense your point cloud is and what's the maximum number of points is that you process. You can actually set that. When you're creating your section extraction lines, you'll set it right here. You'll determine if you want it to be a fast rendition or a more accurate rendition. So the nice thing is, as you move this slider back and forth across the bar, it'll tell you how long it will take as you do that. So let's actually take a look at that in the software. And I'm going to go back over to my model that I brought in so that you can take a look at it. The first thing I want to do is I want to show you how to use some of the line work there. So I'm going to start by showing you the edge, the corner, and the center line. Okay. All right. So again, all I need to do is select that point cloud. There we go. Sometimes I have to draw a window around it to get it, but I just select the point cloud so I see the box around it, and my point cloud ribbon appears at the top. And then on the extract panel, I have the option to start with an edge. So I'm going to click the edge. And when I hover over part of the point cloud, Not being able to see it. Oh, there we go. Okay, see how when I zoomed in a little bit, it turned that whole plane blue. It's letting me know that there is a plane there, and I can go ahead and pick that plane by left-clicking as soon as I see it. And then it needs to have a second plane to find the edge between those two planes. Let me orbit. Okay, there we go. And you can see I can pick this plane, and it'll find the edge between them. So if you saw that, this line is brand new. It just created that line according to the edge between the two planes that I picked. I can do something similar again. I want to hit Escape to let go of my line work, and then I'll select my point cloud, and this time I'll do a corner. Now a corner, it's going to find a point between three different planes. So I'm going to pick the corner option. It's going to ask me to specify the first plane, so I'm going to specify the roof line, and then I'll specify the wall plane over here, and then I'll specify this plane. And you can see what it's doing. Do you see that little node show up right there when I get close? That's the corner that it's actually specifying. So that's it's just a little grip, basically, that you can then work with to create other line work from it. Okay? And then, of course, I don't think I have any cylindrical planes or cylindrical objects in here, so I'm afraid I can't show you the center line option. But let's go ahead and take a look at the section lines. So let me get out to a better view here. I think that'll be a decent enough view. That one actually works out really good. Okay, so I'm going to, again, select my point cloud. And then in the section panel of the point cloud tab, I'm going to select my section plane. And I can choose any of those orthogonal views or pick 2 points in my model. So I'm going to start by just doing a front orthogonal view. Okay, you saw what happened. It just found kind of the center of that point cloud and put a section right across it from the front view. And you can see it's lined up the same as what's on our view cube. So if you ever question what would be the front or left or right, look at that view cube and let it help you figure out which option to choose. Okay? Now the nice thing about this is once I have my section created, I just hit Escape and I've let go of everything, right? But you can see this section grayed out, or it's gray, so that you can see that it is a section. So I'm going to select that section, and this is live sectioning, so you need to make sure that that is toggled on. And then I can change where I have that fall. So if I want to change it in the X direction or the Y direction, if I want to move it around in any way, I just pick the gizmo, the axis of the gizmo that I want to move it. So if I pick this point on that gizmo, you notice that no matter where I move my cursor, that section plane is staying on that axis, so I can now move it around. So if I wanted to move it in this direction 22 feet, I would just type 22, and this is a foot and inch, this drawing is in inches, so I'm going to actually put the foot symbol after it, and press enter, and you can see it did actually move it 22 feet. So I can take a closer look at what's happening in that section. Okay. Now the other great thing about this is, again, I can actually extract line work. Once I have that section created, I can tell it to extract line work from there. So I just select the point cloud. I don't select the section. I select the point cloud. And when that appears, I see the extract panel, and I'm going to select extract section lines. Again, you can decide if you want the entire cross-section or if you just want the perimeter to show up. Tell it what layer you want it on. Do you want it to go specifically on the walls layer or, my plumbing layer? What is it that you want to do here? And then you can set the color. Now I'm going to set the color. I've got a lot of red in there. Let's go with a blue color. and see if you'll be able to see that very clearly. And I do like to use 2D polylines, and I'm going to set this to be a little bit thicker than normal so that you can see. In fact, I'm going to go with like 6 inches. My polyline line width is going to be 6 inches so that you can see it a little bit more bold in the drawing. Okay? And then I can set how fast I want it to go. Again, if you have it set low, it'll go faster, and my estimated time is 1 minute. Or if I want it to be a little bit more accurate, I can have it process more points, and you can see it's going all the way up to 5 minutes according to the density of this point cloud. Now, all of your point clouds are going to be different. If you have an extremely dense point cloud, it's going to take a lot more time. I've had one point cloud that took a full hour to process the points when I had it on the most accurate option. So what you want to do is you want to find a little happy medium in here, maybe take it up to 2 minutes and then bring it back a little bit halfway and see how that happens. Again, you can set the minimum length of your line. So mine, I'm going to make sure that all my lines are a minimum of 6 inches in length. And when lines are within 10 inches of each other, they'll become one object. And then when points are within 5 degrees of each other, they'll have a collinear angle. So, and as far as the collinear angle tolerance, it can be between 0 and 10 degrees. So that's your parameters there. Once you have it done, you just go ahead and click Create. And it's going to take a little bit of time. So Kareem, this is the point where I said I'd have some time as the computer processes that we'll be able to answer some questions. So have any questions come in?
Yes, there have been a few. Now, one of them that came in, I was trying to make note of when it came in. It was about quarter after 2.
I'm having a hard time hearing Kareen. I apologize. Can you speak up a little?
Yes. You can't hear me? How's that?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Better?
Yep, sorry.
Okay, I'm turning my volume up. I'm worried about my phone here. So we had a question come in. I was just trying to mark down the time and what slide you were on. It was in about quarter after 2. The slide said extract line work on the slide. And someone asked, does this only affect the point cloud or all DWG content?
It is only off of the point cloud when you extract those section lines.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that made sense and what context it was in since it came in a bit earlier. Someone did also ask if you could please repeat the file format again. And then they also had another question. Okay, so we'll start with that.
Okay, so the file formats that you're going to be using are RCP and RCF. So those are recap scan files or recap project files.
Okay, excellent. And then they asked also for visualization classification, what process or software enabled the ground versus the building colors?
Ooh, you know what? That's a question I don't know the answer to. Let me see if I can do some research and find that out.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And I think that's all I have for the moment.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So you can see what happened is because I told it to do a perimeter of that section, my polyline ended up coming in. And you can see, it looks like a double line, but that's actually my polyline width that you're looking at. And it went ahead and went all the way around wherever it found points along that edge of the section. It went ahead and put a polyline. And if I select it, I'm going to have a hard time selecting it. Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. There we go. So now you can see it is actually a polyline that's been created from that point cloud. Now, there's a little bit more to this than what I've shown so far, so let me jump back to our slide. There we go. And the last thing that I want to show you is the object snap capabilities. These are awesome. I cannot stress enough how awesome the object snap is, because now if you set your 3D object snap settings, if you right-click on 3D object snap in the status bar and go to settings, you see that we have this point cloud option. And all of these point cloud options are available to now snap to edges of our point cloud or corners of our point cloud. So remember a few minutes ago I created line work for the edges and line work for the corners, but that's not all I can do. I can actually start creating line work manually myself from the edges and from the corners, and I can actually tell it to go perpendicular to a plane. So this is awesome when it comes to, you know, helping you be a little bit more efficient. You make things a lot more accurate from those point clouds using these commands. So let's go back over into our point cloud drawing, and I'm going to create some line work. In fact, let me go back to my layers here and set a layer that you'll be able to see easier. Let's go with a fireplace. Okay. And so now, if I wanted to start my fireplace from the corner of a wall or from the edge of a wall or something like that, I can do that. First thing I want to do is in the status bar, I'll right-click on the object snap, the 3D object snap there, and go to Object Snap Settings. Whoops, I snapped on the wrong one. But the nice thing is the drafting settings come up, and I can just click over to the 3D object snap, not a problem. And from here, I'll tell it to allow me to snap to edges and corners and perpendicular to a plane and perpendicular to an edge. Now, one other thing that I like to do if I am working with point clouds is I do go back over to the Object Snap tab, and I turn off the node. Okay. That makes it a lot easier. In fact, I'm going to turn off the node for point clouds here. It makes it a lot easier to actually snap to one of these without having to override it. But Object Snap overrides are available for point clouds as well. So if I start the line command, and you'll notice when I hover over something, it's giving me planes. And in fact, here, it's automatically trying to find the corner of those 3 planes that I'm hovering over. So I'll just left click, and you can see it started from the corner of those where those 3 planes intersect. If I want to override, you know, a point, if I'm having a hard time finding the object snap for my point clouds, I'll simply hold my Shift key or Control key down, right click, then in the 3D OSnap option, I can select any of those point cloud options that are available there. So if I want to say I make it perpendicular to a point cloud, I can tell it to be perpendicular to this wall or this line here, and oops, that didn't take. There we go. Now that line should be perpendicular to that section line that you saw, okay? And in fact, if I kept going, I could make it perpendicular to the ceiling or the roof. So a lot of great new functionality when it comes to point clouds that have been included in the 2016 release of the software. I think if you are working in that reality capture world, I think you'll agree that you know, it's going to help you quite a bit. Now, remember I told you when I was inserting the point cloud that you had to make sure that the segmentation was set to yes. You can only do the things that I showed you as far as the section, extracting line work from it, and snapping to point cloud object snap modes. That segmentation has to be set to yes in order for you to see that. Now, if you forgot to look when you were inserting the point cloud itself, what you can do is go over into the software, select the point cloud. Let me see if I can select it. Let me get it. There we go. All right, so you'll select the point cloud, right-click, and go to Properties. And in the Properties palette, you'll see the segmentation option here, right down here, and you want to make sure that that is set to yes. Only if that's set to yes can you do the object snaps that I was showing you. All right. So basically, the point cloud file that I used in this demonstration, it came from the practice exercise from the manual when you learn how to attach a point cloud. And then working with the sections, that's from practice 3B. And so what we learned today is we learned a little bit out of the AutoCAD 2016 update for AutoCAD 2014 and 2015 users, specifically out of Chapter 3, which is 3D modeling, and we learned how to attach and manage point clouds. So just to let you know what is available as far as AutoCAD books, this is the release roadmap. You can see that we have the AutoCAD update book, the fundamentals, essentials, and beyond basics. They're all available right now. If you're hoping to get the fundamentals or essentials or beyond the basics in a metric version, you can see they'll be out a little bit later on in this month and still in April. And then looking towards May, you'll see the advanced book available, and in June that'll be available in the metric. And then in August, you'll be able to find the 3D modeling, and then raster design will come out in October. And of course, our guides come in a number of different ways. You can buy the printed spiral-bound student guides. Those are in an 8.5 by 11 format. And the nice thing about that being a spiral bound is you can flip the book open, all the way open, so that you can flip it back upon itself and just show one page at a time. My preferred format is an ebook because you can take notes in that book. You can share your notes with anybody that has that book. And the really great thing is now they are video enhanced. So you actually have videos right in the ebook to learn how to do some of this stuff and be able to watch someone do it live, or not live, but in the book itself.
It's like having the instructor. It's like having Michelle right beside you.
Exactly. And you don't have to wait for one of these webcasts, which is also great. All right, and then we do have our e-learning bundle that's available. That includes video enhancement bundles. You can do it with self-paced learning and online learning, and so that would be bundling a couple of different books together. And then we do have, if you are an instructor and you're teaching this to other people, we do have instructor tools that are available. The slides that I used today, those are part of the instructor tools, and you can purchase the instructor guide that actually suggests the timing of each chapter and how long it should take if you're teaching it in a classroom environment. And then, of course, we do have digital site licenses as well. And we can do customization. If you want to, learn part of the fundamentals and then part of the advanced, we can actually customize a book specific to your needs. So I want to just thank everyone for joining us today. I'd love to hear feedback on how you guys thought this went, or if you do have our books, we'd love to get your feedback on that. Just send it to feedback@ascented.com. And of course, any of those books that I showed you in the lineup, you can purchase those at the ASCENT e-store. And you can call us anytime at the 800 number, or the toll-free number that you see on the screen. And then, of course, always watch out for our blog. I do submit articles to the blog, and in fact, I'll be following this webcast up with a question and answer blog so that you can see any questions that I was not able to answer during this session. They'll be in the blog, so you can take a look at that.